Journey to Truth is going to Hawaii. Join us in 2026 for Journey to Truth's first ever vacation conference on the Big Island at the beautiful Queen Emma Community Center in Kona. Enjoy Hawaii as we travel to sacred sites and connect with our Lemurian past and reactivate the land. It's time to get our bodies moving and take a boots on the ground approach to the awakening. We'll also be making a trip to Volcano National Park to pay our respect to Pele, the goddess of fire. We'll then journey to the water for an ocean adventure with our multi-dimensional aquatic family. We'll gear up and head to the harbor as we set sail under the sun for an activating day on the water while we experience the Hawaiian ocean life like never before. Enjoy Hawaiian sunsets and walks on the beach while connecting with soul family and learning a few things from our amazing lineup of speakers. Aloha! Grab your ticket today at journeytotruth.online and join us for this once-in-a-lifetime activating getaway.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are in Key West with Dr. Salla, actually filming him for our documentary coming up, our Secret Space Program documentary that will be released in January 9th in Sedona. We rented out of the theater. It's already sold out, but it'll be available on Amazon Prime after that. We're very excited to put, we can't wait for everyone to see it. It's a monumental film. It's a very ambitious project. And this is a very last minute interview we're doing, including Dr. Salla in the film. And we're super excited. It's just about wrapped up, but we're here and we're going to talk about all things disclosure. We figured we might as well do a podcast while we're here. And we wanted to do another dedication to James Rink. He just passed and we did a little tribute show. And I know you acknowledged it yesterday, but you know, he was one of the early ones talking about this, was the Super Soldier Talk program and stuff. And what was your relationship with James? I know that I'm sure you've connected with him in the past, and he's interviewed you, I believe, correct?
That's right. Yeah. No. I knew James, and he did a lot of interviews, as you know, of super soldiers and people that have been through the secret space programs, and you know, he was really helpful because he got a lot of people. You know, he didn't really try to vet people and or anything. He just, like, someone had a story related to the secret space programs. He gave them an audience. He gave them a platform, and that was good. That was helpful because I didn't always kind of like agree that everyone he interviewed was legitimate as opposed to being delusional. But I thought that there were enough people there that were real and genuine that I thought it was really valuable.
Right. Yeah, and giving everybody a voice it's important, you know, especially right now. And I think some people do have everybody, even if somebody isn't connected like they think they are, they still have a piece of the puzzle. And that's what's important, I think.
Right.
So we just wanted to give, just take a moment and just, you know, honor him one more time before we get into the conversation today. And, you know.
And I feel like you really helped build the community there as well.
Right.
And kind of like put it out there in a way, like really, it was like him and Project Camelot were the only ones back in the day talking about this. And it really, I mean, at least in a big way. And they really kind of paved the way,
right,
like for a lot of people to feel comfortable, like, oh, there's other people talking about this. There's platforms, there's a community there.
Right.
I can come forward with my story and information.
Yeah, well, I thought it was kind of like really interesting what he said, though, that he felt he was being targeted at the end, because I think that's important, that someone didn't want him around, and that's what he believed.
Right.
Yeah.
That he was being targeted and that his declining health was a result of being targeted. And I think that there is this clandestine program that exists where they will go after UFO researchers or insiders, whistleblowers who are saying too much. But rather than like 20 years ago where they would be outright assassinated, now they have the psychotronic weapons where they can induce heart attacks or induce debilitating illnesses. And that's how they get rid of people now.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, I believe the attacks happened, the targeting is real. And, right now it's speculation as far as who it was or what even happened. But I wouldn't be surprised considering who he was and what he was doing, including putting on a super soldier conference, which would make you even more of a target,
Yeah. Well, like he did for years before he had his health issues and he was declining. But even that to me, that was probably a byproduct of his time in the programs, because he claimed he had like many 20 in backs and all kinds of stuff. So I can't imagine the physical toll that would do to somebody. So it makes sense that he had the condition that he did and that he did bypass so young. But it also could be true that they kind of like took him out sooner than he would have otherwise by an attack as well. Maybe at his conference recently.
Yeah.
That could also vary.
Either way, I think we just, just wanted to take a little time and just dedicate the beginning of this to him and thank him for everything that he's done. And I also, you were starting, when did you start doing this stuff?
I got interested in 2001 with Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project press conference, but it was beginning of 2003 that I started writing and putting out updates, and my website began, and I began doing conferences and doing interviews. So so for me it all really began 2003, because that's when I decided that I was going to make this my main research focus, that I went from a kind of conventional career in academia to now I would be focusing on exopolitics.
Right. Yeah, and it's been quite the journey for all of us. It's a lot of lessons learned. Ufology, this community, this whole movement. It's kind of dicey sometimes, and not everybody is who we think they are, and there's just things that happen, and it's not the safest field to be in, and someone like James is a good testament of that.
You're dealing with the highest kept secrets of the planet. Basically. So, it takes a lot of courage and bravery to even speak out about this stuff, especially the experiencers or the people that have the real inside information. Right. And someone like yourself doing what you're doing, it takes a lot of courage. And so thank you for paving the way as well. And being brave to leave a career in academia, a nice cushy job, or I guess you were kind of forced out, but still like you were brave enough to you knew this subject was real and serious, and you got interested in it, and you talked about it, and you did things that they didn't like, and not everyone has the courage
to do that. To make a choice. Yeah, I had to choose. But I think it is important that we acknowledge that that there's been a deliberate change in the policymaking process on the UFO issue. That in 2017, the White Hats. They decided that they would get this information out there, and they got people like Louis Elizondo, Chris Mellon, and Jay Stratton and others to start speaking out about it. And of course, you've got the whole New York Times issue, and then you have people like David Grush coming along, and now you have the Agent Disclosure coming along, and so before you had this kind of simple dichotomy where the deep state was suppressing everything, and the White Hats were like trying to get information out through whistleblowers and so forth, but they were being blocked or intimidated or silenced or assassinated. Like Stephen Greer's epithets. You got like hundreds of whistleblowers come forward, but now we've had a sea change. So now the White Hats are still getting people to come forward, but now it's actually something where the mass media will give you some support. And so now we have to consider that some of the people that are coming out are really controlled opposition.
Yeah. I would agree with that 100%. And you can tell by how little they're actually telling. It's a lot more, like you said, they're pushing a threat narrative by, which is the number one red flag. But also, it seems to be like what makes a whistleblower credible is unfortunately having the rank and position that they have as far as the masses are concerned. So if you take a deeper whistleblower who doesn't necessarily have the credentials as these other guys, they might not be deemed as credible. So I guess in a world stage, it makes sense to use these guys. Whether you're controlling it or not, they know that people aren't going to listen to somebody if they're not wearing a suit or a lab coat or whatever the case is, or have this military
Or
ranking or
the surface level government credentials rather than these deep, unacknowledged, very deep black programs that aren't on the books in any way, shape, or form. And then somebody comes out of that, it's like there's nothing on paper that points to a credential. You just have to kind of take their word for it, or other data points that line up. Whereas the research we've done, and from our perspective, we can tell when somebody, coming out in that way is like a William Tompkins or I don't know, somebody that's kind of more off the radar because they're coming from a deeper level of the military industrial complex or programs, is real. Whereas like many people don't understand how things really work, and to them, oh, that's just somebody telling a story, and these people are the credentialed real, like everyone in Age of Disclosure. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for me, because it's at least it's legitimizing this topic to so many people that otherwise wouldn't have even taken it seriously, and they're like, oh, now I'm going to actually maybe listen to these other people that would have just brushed off or this other information, because now at least I know it's most likely real, because look, all these people in the government military are sins. So that's the good part. But then they're also trying to control the narrative and frame it as a threat, and we don't know what it is. And everything's so compartmentalized, though. Many of these people, if not all of them, they only know a small piece of the puzzle and what they're told. So they don't even have access to the real information anyway. So it's not like they're intentionally lying or they're intentionally withholding a lot of stuff. They just don't. They're not read in or briefed themselves on a lot of the real stuff.
Well, while we got Salla here, let's hear from you. Let's give us your elevator pitch right now. If you were to, I guess, tell somebody like what you think is happening currently right now, as far as the Trump administration, disclosure, the white hats agenda, what do you think is actually occurring? I know we can't talk about this we had recently, but I know there's some new updates and stuff, like as far as right now today.
I think we're at a point where people who have been controlling the UFO issue, or they've been trying to get the information out, they know now that the mass consciousness is taking off, and that there's stuff happening that they can't control, and so they're trying to get ahead of something that they can't control. Because ultimately, I mean, we think of the black hats and the white hats. And white hats are good guys, black hats are bad guys, and so we want to work with the white hats. But I think the white hats, they're still under control. I mean, this is the military intelligence community that the way they view us, the population, is that they see us as like uninformed sheep that need to be protected. But part of that process is to feed us a little bit of the truth so that we stay in line and stay in order and don't, disrupt the system. Whereas the black hats, they've been like using us as a resource for decades. But now the white hats seem to have the ascendancy. But I think that what they are seeing is that we are waking up. And part of the reason that we're waking up is that there's cosmic energies coming in, there's galactic, or there's energies coming from the center of the earth, and all these different ET groups that have arrived. And somehow all of that's combining to raise our planetary consciousness, and the controllers can't control us anymore. So they're kind of feeding us some of the truth. We've got a lot of these limited hangouts coming out, and it's good because it gets us to kind of like think about UFO crash retrievals that have been happening, that now they're talking about corporate reverse engineering programs that have been happening. They're talking about recovery of non-human intelligence that's been going on. So that opens the door. But, my concern is that the so-called white hats, they will limit a lot of what really is happening from getting out in the public arena. And they'll do that by sidelining us who have been working in this field for decades and been putting out the information, and elevating this kind of newer crop of people who are controlled opposition, you give this kind of more limited narrative as to what's happening.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So do you think, well, I know they're trying to sideline a lot of us and we experience that, like you said. But I feel like that's just like motivates us in a way. Like to me, I see it as, okay, like watch me now, see what I can do now, you know?
Mhm.
And I think that if we don't have that mentality, then they win, right? And so what has that been like for you? I mean, has that lit a fire under your ass?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like, I've given over 20 years to this. I sacrificed an academic career and family and all of the things that go with, you go from a full-time salary in a career that's respected to all of a sudden you don't have a full-time salary. You lose family, you lose assets, material things, and people call you a larper and a grifter, and it's just like,
Or
what?
you're crazy.
What? I mean, I gave up a full-time salary to pursue what I know to be the truth. So it's personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Personal. It's like, I've got to prove something here. It's like, and I feel like I still haven't proven, I'm still pissed off at the university for not backing me, for like saying, oh, well, this whole exopolitics interest that you have has no place in a university. It's some verified conspiracy theory.
Yeah. It's all
And-
nonsense.
Yeah. And
Conspiracy.
it's like, what? This is a university, a place of higher learning. I was teaching graduate students who were paying like 30,000 plus a year to get the most accurate information, like what's happening out there in international conflict, and they wanted me to like not share that, what the real thing that's
Right.
happening out there, and just go for some watered down international conflict narrative based on balance of power and international liberalism and transnational corporations and so forth. And it's like, well, hang on, there's something much deeper than all of that, which is related to this whole extraterrestrial issue. But they didn't want anything to do with that. So yeah, I'm still pissed off by that.
You straight off the plantation. They didn't like it.
Right.
Too far outside the
Well,
control.
and what I
box.
found very interesting this morning when I asked you, I was like, man, you've been pumping out a lot of stuff and I don't know how you do it. And you were just like, I love it. And I could feel it when you said that.
Yeah.
So this is just something that it's not just, it is personal, but you also love it. It's a passion, right?
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, whenever I interview people, I mean, I always start from the premise that, okay, what do you have to share? And it's like, I'm learning something new here.
Right.
And I'm learning all the time. I mean, I'm interviewing these people now, and there's a pattern, like these gals that believe they're part of a Galactic Envoy program. And there's a pattern. The pattern I see is that, you have a lot of these very talented, sensitive women who, from early on in their lives, are targeted, and they're put through MK Ultra. They're put through systemic kind of like abuse, sexual abuse, multiple rapes, and they're just like really attacking these women
The most horrific stuff.
in the most
Yeah.
horrific way,
Yeah.
Kathy O'Brien type thing. But
Yeah.
these are happening to women who are, we call them starseeds or galactic envoys, and that they go through, this horror of events, and they're used because they are very talented. Some of them are incredibly gifted telepaths. Others have telekinetic abilities, remote viewing, remote sensing abilities. So they're targeted and used in the programs. And some of them end up in these secret space programs. And then they wake up, or then they realize that they are actually galactic envoys, that they volunteered for Earth assignment, and that they knew that they would be subjected to this kind of systematic abuse.
Yeah.
Because the deep state doesn't want talented starseeds from out there coming here fully awake and able to kind of like share their gifts, because that would change the planet overnight.
Right.
Right.
So they just target them with all this stuff. And and I'm married to one, and she's been through a lot of stuff, but she stays private, Angelica, in terms of her experiences. But so I interview these ladies, and I see this pattern, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. We have so much talent and experience here from all of these people from all over the galaxy who've chosen to incarnate on Earth, and so they sharing their experiences. So I feel like it's great to be able to interview them. So and it finally hits me what the deep state's been doing. It's like they're able to somehow track souls before they're even born here to determine, okay, who are the star seeds, who are the potential threats. At an early age, 2, 3, 4, they begin targeting them.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, so they're able to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that before.
Right.
And I only learned that from interviewing people.
Yeah. And we were actually talking about earlier, we can take it as far as a time travel element too, where some of us might even be targeted early on in life. Maybe not as far back as being born, but at a younger age to stop us because they've seen us become a threat in the future. Right. And like we were saying, 5-10 years ago, we would have thought that would have been an insane theory, but it actually makes the most sense now because otherwise, how could you explain it? So I think that's interesting. And, I don't have anything to add to that. No,
I don't. Yeah. No, that's.
Okay, so as far as I want to ask you about JP. I know you've been interviewing him for a long time. Actually, in 2018, when we were at Dimensions of Disclosure, I think you were showing some of his footage even all the way back then, but nobody knew who JP was. Am I right about that?
Yeah. I began working with him in 2008, and so from 2008 to 2017, I never publicly mentioned him because I wasn't really certain.
Right.
He'd ring me up and he'd say, "Oh, this happened to me. I was taken here and saw this and experienced that." I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. But he was so he wasn't very sophisticated, and it was very raw, his narrative in what he was saying. So I wasn't convinced. But then in 2017, he started sending me photos. And he said, okay, these are photos of craft near MacDill Air Force Base. And they show flying triangles, flying rectangles, flying saucers. And he's saying that the military guys are telling me to look up and take photos of it. They're wanting me to photograph these things. So that got my attention, and I started to put that out. So on my website in 2017, I put out the first kind of like articles about JP, and I covered what he was doing, and then Dimensions of Disclosure happened. I introduced him to David Woolcock and Corey Good. That they got to meet him and look at him, but I don't think they were tremendously impressed. So they kind of let it slide. But then JP decides to join the army in end of 2019. He joins because he was always being encouraged to join the military for years since the time I met him, since the time we began talking. But I always encouraged him. I said, "Don't do it. Don't do it because if you do, they'll control you, and you won't be able to tell me all the stuff that you're experiencing." So he didn't. But then 2019, he decided to join, and he had his reasons for doing that. And Space Force was newly created, and Space Command was newly created, and he was told that he would work with Space Force, and so he was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll join." So he joined, and then he continued to have experiences, and the amazing thing was that he was able to talk to me about it.
Yeah,
and then we started doing the updates.
Yeah, so I didn't know that he wasn't always in the military. So that happened.
Same.
After, yeah. So you knew him before his time in the military. Okay, so that's a part of the story I guess I didn't understand. And I haven't watched every update. You've done quite a few with him. And then some of it's, I can understand why people might be reserved about it because it's like, okay, going in, the space arc, visiting the space arc, or some of these missions might seem out there. So, but you seem to think after all this time that he's credible and
he's telling the truth, and he's actually doing these missions.
So I guess my question is, and then maybe we should just interview him at some point and ask him ourselves. But okay, he's in the army now, and he's doing like whatever he's doing on the surface level, and these other missions that he's going on. Are they kind of like a 20 and back mission, like where he's like going and coming back and like these covert things, or is that what he's doing in real time?
It's what he's doing in real time. So
Okay.
he doesn't remember being part of the 20 MBAT program.
Okay.
Although we just did an update and it'll come out on Thursday.
Okay.
And in that update, we show some of his separation documents. So we show his DD-214 that he actually served in the military. We reveal his full name, and so the documents are there showing that he served. He completed paratrooper training with the 7th Special Forces Group out of Eglin Air Force Base, which is a specialized army unit that does special forces stuff all over the world. So he trained with those guys, and it's very rare that an army recruit will just kind of like end up with something like 7th Special Forces. That's kind of like, like really up there.
Right.
But someone wanted him to be with that unit, and when you look at his experiences, it becomes clear that someone wanted him in a unit that would equip him with skills, physical skills and experiences that would enable him to do covert missions.
Right.
Because because the training required the paratrooper, become a paratrooper, like you earned his red beret and all of that is pretty tough.
Right.
And so he did all that. And that equipped him for doing a lot of these off-world and the underground missions.
Right. It's almost like it was a grooming process in a sense. If the military was contacting him to look up before he signed up for the military, it's almost like they always knew that was going to happen. Like if you want to even go as far as time travel thing, or somehow they were able to look down that timeline. And
we've heard stories like that from a lot of people where they were like, I've been being groomed my entire life to end up doing this program or this.
And in my opinion, they already had the end destination set. Like as far as where he would end up in the military, and why he was trained with the special forces and stuff. And I think it was just basically steering him or nudging him in certain directions to get there. And not saying that's a bad thing, because it could be obviously a good thing because he's blowing the whistle or allowed to talk about it, which is another interesting thing I'd like to get your opinion. It's like, why do you think they're giving him permission to share all this?
Well, the kind of simplest answer is that the Air Force reached agreements with the Nordic ETs that JP had experiences with back in 2008. And one of the things that happened, and it's kind of, we discussed it in the first book in the series I did on JP, that the Air Force and the Navy were being trained by the Nordics to use some of their ET technologies. And JP knew about these technologies. He knew about how some of these technologies operate. He's a specialist in extraterrestrial technologies. He knows them. And the thing is that the Air Force and the Navy needed him to kind of show them some stuff.
Right.
And part of the condition that the Nordics gave was that, one, that they would protect JP from the deep state, the CIA, all those guys that don't want disclosure, and that, two, that they would allow him to disclose his experiences, that they would actually help him to disclose his experience. So that's unique. It's never happened before. And I think that's the secret. Now, this is where it gets into the kind of nitty gritty of what kind of skill set JP has. Because, he served for 4.5 years in the Army. He got his DD-214, and he was retired. He was given honorable discharge with full military, with full pension, because he was injured, right? They say he was medically unfit to continue, and so they discharged him. And he discharged with an E4, so he was just like a specialist. Right? So that's a low rank. Now, one of the discharge papers they gave to JP had his rank as CW2. So I actually show it in this update.
Oh, really?
CW2 is a Chief Warrant Officer, second class.
Wow.
That's a very senior enlisted. Actually, it's an officer.
Right.
It's between enlisted and officers. and it's someone that typically has, more than a decade, 15 years experience. And I think that what that shows is that JP, the one that we know of who's been sharing all this information and has been doing all these updates, who's aware of all that information, that there's another JP who's part of the secret space program.
Who served more time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He served more time and he achieved this rank of Chief Warrant Officer. And his specialty was extraterrestrial weapons development.
Really?
Very interesting.
That is interesting. It makes sense. I mean, especially if you have the document, that to me is key. So we have two different ranks that one doesn't really make sense unless he was involved in a much deeper level.
Right.
So, okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know because a lot of people have been nudging us to interview him and stuff. And
we've been on the fence about it for a while.
Yeah.
But I feel like,
right.
I mean, personally lately, I've been coming around to, I think this guy's, he's legit. So just kind of. I
mean, it's hard to know sometimes. Honestly,
it's hard to know.
Yeah, like he was wearing that helmet and stuff, which
that was a little goofy to me. Yeah, that was a little. To me, I was like, really, man? But I like that now he's fully not doing that. He's just out there.
Right.
His identity. I like that he at least did that now.
Yeah.
See, I'm kind of convinced. I think at this point, I think there's something there, and I think he's really programmed.
So, okay, moving forward, as far as extraterrestrials being involved with like the White Hats and the Trump administration, I think that like the Nordics working with our government. How present do you think that is, and how many Nordics do you think we see on TV every day standing next to Trump or in the White House? Do you think that's the case? Is that what we're seeing?
Well, we know Trump's being briefed about Nordics. I mean, there's Hein Eshed that said it, and also David Grush has said it, that he's being briefed about these Nordic extraterrestrials. Now, and I know that the Nordics have infiltrated at the very highest level of government, and so Trump may be surrounded consciously or unconsciously by Nordics, his administration. But they're already saying it now that Trump is going to be disclosing the truths about UFOs, and there have been multiple sources that have talked about that, and I think that totally makes sense to me that Trump is going to become the disclosure president. And we already see it, just the build up with age of disclosure. You have Marco Rubio on there, and also JD Vance saying that he wants to get to the bottom of the UFO issue, and that Trump's being briefed about it, and that one of the sources describes Trump. This is a guy that knows Trump and says that Trump's ego is such that he can't resist bragging about what he knows.
I saw that,
that,
which makes sense. Yeah,
that he can't. Well, Walter Kern, okay, who's kind of playwright, writer, and he says that Trump can't resist, and Trump knows about this stuff, and so his personality is such that he will be the one that reveals it because he knows it's real. He's being briefed.
Yeah.
And he cannot resist being the person that says, hey, guess what I know?
It seems like he's waiting. Right. It seems like he's waiting for the right time is what I'm getting. And like David Grush even says he knows Trump knows a lot about this stuff. He's publicly said that. He said, Haim Eshed already, the Israeli, he said, oh yeah, Trump is aware. So there's multiple people that have said, "Oh, Trump is fully aware of this stuff." He's kind of like acting like he doesn't.
Well, William Tompkins even said it back in the Perry interview originally.
That's right.
He was like, Trump knows a lot more about this stuff than you realize. So he might have always had some inside knowledge, but I think it's a matter of what's on the schedule. I think that things have to be done in order of operations, and then. Like whenever it's just the timing's just right, we'll get something. And everybody's going to try and say it's a distraction or whatever.
Well, he's a master, he's doing this art of war chess game, so much optics, right? So it's interesting to see his answers or when people ask him about this and he's all like, there's probably something there, but I don't know. I'm definitely curious. He like plays this like game on the fence of like,
Right.
It's almost like he doesn't want to say outright no, or I don't believe it, or I'm not gonna. But he also doesn't want to say anything. It's like he's holding his cards still,
Right.
purposefully. So it's interesting. I'm like, so is he waiting for a later time? Is there, because we know there's a greater thing going on in the background, obviously, right? So he's connected to that. So it's like, I'm wondering like when's going to be the right time? What's going to be the catalyst to cause him to come out?
Well, I personally think that some of the people there are extraterrestrials, that look human.
I mean, I think so.
There was that one photo that apparently he was standing next to like this Pleiadian commander in this other environment or wherever it was.
Mm-hmm.
But we wouldn't know. And how many whistleblowers have we heard tell us that you wouldn't know these people walking down the street. You wouldn't know the difference.
Yes.
That could be human.
Robert Dean said that all the time.
So I personally think that even on TV every day, like by his side, some of the commanders and Space Force and stuff might even be extraterrestrials for all we know.
Right.
Obviously, we can't prove them, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's just been in front of our face all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's event driven. I think the timetable is certain events have to happen in order for this disclosure to happen under Trump. And I think the big event is, I think what Trump has to do, and he's been told this by the ETs, and it goes all the way back to the 1950s, is that you have to have world peace.
Right.
Before you reveal the existence of the extraterrestrials and start releasing their technologies, you need to have world peace. You need to have some kind of unified world government or governance system in place.
Otherwise, it's catastrophic.
Because it'll just be chaos because we have different national interests, trying to use the ET issue for one agenda or another.
Right.
So you need to have world peace. You need to have some level of world governance. And you look at what's happening with this Trump administration, and you see that happening. I mean, one, he's bringing about peace in all these international conflicts.
That's exactly what he's doing.
He's trying to resolve the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and I think it'll happen. I mean, Stuart Swerdlow says that he was told by a high-level NASA insider that by January, the Ukraine-Russia conflict will be over, and that'll be because of Trump, right? And I think that's going to be a very critical event, because once that Ukraine-Russia issue is over, then you're going to have a major condition achieved, which is world peace. And this is where you get into the whole Israel Palestinian issue, because Trump's brought about a ceasefire. People say, well, the ceasefire is just a temporary thing. It'll collapse at any time that the Israelis want to. But it's like, no, if you look at it closely, look what Trump did. I mean, it wasn't just like, okay, Israel and Hamas, you have a ceasefire agreement and then, we're just going to step back and the Israelis can do whatever they want.
Good luck. No,
it's like what Trump has done. He's got all these Arab nations to kind of like sign on to that agreement. He's created a governing board, and the most critical thing is that he's got the United Nations involved. So now and this is the first time ever that the United Nations Security Council has been allowed to pass a resolution on Israel, because every other time before that, the US would veto.
Right.
This time they passed it, and they've established a governing board, and Trump is the chairman of that governing board. So this goes back to the whole idea. Well, if you want to disclosure to happen and release ET technology, you need to establish world peace, and you need to establish a certain degree of global governance. So Trump is doing that.
That's exactly what he's doing.
World peace, global governance, and right now, I think we're probably going to see a much more prominent role of the United Nations, because this is what Trump is facilitating.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's doing all that and blasting the cartel out of the water. I mean, there's a lot, but that's also like, that's a whole other issue. But why were the cartel in deals with the Democrats anyway, or people with the government in the first place? So
why was all this trafficking and all this stuff being
and the immigrant
stuff,
it's not what people think. There was a much darker agenda behind all that, and if you don't understand that, it looks like madness. But I agree, it's all leading to some form of world peace. I mean, the wars. In fact, FIFA, I think there's a lot to look at there with FIFA.
Oh yeah.
And that trophy that looks like Ezekiel's wheel.
Mhm.
It almost looked like, and there's been like hints of time travel stuff. There's weird stuff, but then they just created the FIFA Peace Prize and granted it to Trump. It was the first time ever.
Right.
I think, and that's the World Cup. And what is that? No,
World peace.
Unity, world peace.
Right.
So that's like, I would pay close attention to that, the World Cup coming up, because I think there's going to be comms everywhere when you watch that. And already is.
Right.
Like, why is the current president like dealing with the FIFA president in such a close way? Why is he constantly in the Oval Office? I think there's a lot to look at there. So I would even encourage people to pay attention to that as FIFA approaches. And because I think they're going to try to use that as a way to like actually like, okay, this is what world peace looks like.
Right.
You know, we're no longer warring with these nations we're playing against. Now we're united with them. You know?
Right.
So, do you have any thoughts about the FIFA thing?
Well, 2026 they're going to have the World Cup in the United States,
Right.
And I think that's going to be part of this process of like presenting a kind of like unified global situation. You know, we don't have a global governance system yet. I mean, we're kind of inching towards one, but I think sport is a way to show that, well, the planet is unified. You know, we've got world peace,
Right.
and so now's a good time to disclose all this stuff,
Right.
And I think that so that 2026, I think, is going to be a big year for this.
And if you follow the World Cup closely, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories or corruption behind it, especially using slave labor to build the facilities to host that. And there's been whistleblowers about that. I don't know if you've gone down that rabbit hole. It's very, very dark. So by Trump stepping in that, it could be actually cleaning that up as well, because it was always a very deep state oriented event. It used to be. So it's like a takeover of that as well.
I've noticed most things that he does, or that even just happen in general, are like multiple birds with one stone. It's like they're not just doing one thing. So like you said, it's cleaning that up, but it's also unifying the planet in a way, and it's also working towards world peace, and it's like doing multiple things, which is interesting. It's interesting how things are playing out, because it's almost like, you know, it's not things that most people could predict or expect. It's all happening. It's like, oh, everyone thinks disclosure is going to happen this way or that way, and it's happening in a way that no one expected or predicted, because it's real. And that's when you can tell something on that big of a scale, it's going to happen in a way that no one really
it's a great
could
point.
see coming.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's like unexpected at every turn, I think. Yeah. So as far as, you know, what do you have coming up? We can start wrapping this up. We've been going for a while. We're going to get in the water. So you have anything coming up that you'd like to talk about, promote? You know, any conferences? We're trying to reel them into Hawaii, but it isn't.
I would love to
understand
this,
Right.
but conferences for me a bit risky. My health is much better.
That's
but,
good. You're looking,
That's good. Yeah, 'cause you got
much better, but I'm still leery. And now what happened with James Rink? It's just think about it. And I've heard from others. John Vivanco doesn't do conferences for the same reason. That it's like he's heard that they target people.
Well, something happened to me at one I've told you about, and I'm very careful about which ones I go to, and even our own. Like, you know, it just changes things. You know,
Right.
So not to cut you off, but I understand where you're coming from with that. But as far as, you know, what do you have on the horizon?
Yeah. So what I've been doing is I've been focusing on doing webinars because that's how I can get out to people. And I'd love to physically be with people and do events, but as we just said, it's a little challenging, especially if you've survived what you feel was an attack. And so I do webinars. So my next webinar is going to be on December 13. I don't know if that'll be after this.
It'll be right after this airs, so this will be out first.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
So everyone check it out.
Yes, so December 13. You just go to my website, exopolitics.org, and I'll talk about and there'll be the webinar details. So I'll be doing, and this will be a little different for me. It's kind of like more a mini conference. I'll have 4 presenters. So I'll have Stuart Swerdler, Lily Nova, and Brad Johnson and myself doing 1 hour presentation. So it'll be a mini conference on what's coming in 2026. And, and everyone brings something a little bit different in terms of what's coming. So Stuart has insiders, Lily's a great remote viewer, Brad Johnson's a very gifted psychic. I tend to be more the left brain analytical, looking at, global events and trying to piece them together and all of that. So I think it'll be a great event. And then I do monthly briefings, and I'm just keeping up a very rigorous schedule of interviews. So my next book is going to be on the and I expect that to come out with the early to mid part of 2026. So that'll be my next book, and I'm very excited by that because I think this will be the next wave. I think there's going to be I think there are millions of starseeds that are here who are connected in a very important way with the fleets that are out there, and they don't know it, or maybe they sense it, but they maybe don't believe it. Maybe they doubt themselves. Right. I've got a husband up there, or I got a wife up there that's watching over me. Am I delusional?
Right.
Whole family that I'm unaware of. That's
exactly. But it did happen to me. That happened to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. In 1985, 86. 1985. I had an experience where there were it was like 2 or 3 blue beings just appeared in my bedroom. The first relationship I had where I was in love with someone and she dumped me, so I was just emotionally devastated. It's like, life is over.
Right.
And these beings showed up in my room, and they were just there, and they were sending me love. And who are you? And we're your family. I could just feel it. Right. The answer was, they're my family. And I said, I remember thinking, well, hang on, you're not my family, my brother and sisters, they're there.
Yeah, that's my family. Yeah,
it's like, we're your family. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know. I thought, well, like angels or something. But now I would say that was my star family that came in at a time when I was having a significant heart issue, emotional heart issue.
Right.
And I think, wow. And interviewing these ladies who believe that they're Galactic Envoys, it's like, well, this is actually pretty common. This happens to a lot of people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right,
I agree 100%. Actually, somebody you might be interested in, we've interviewed her a couple of times, Katie in the chorus. She talked about the Federation. She is a channeler who also is connected with the Federation, and she talks about the waves of volunteers as far as being kind of like a Galactic Envoy thing.
Dolores Cannon, obviously. Yeah.
But what I found interesting is she added to it was, so when she was asking about it, and she didn't really have any background of the Galactic Federation or anything when she was asking, and they said that they would send people down here, and they underestimated the potency of the amnesia. So their own people were getting trapped in the reincarnation cycle. Mm-hmm. So they had to send another wave, and only a small percentage of them would actually remember what they were here to do. So then they sent in, they triple down, mm-hmm. and sent in just millions. Like they just sent in tons of them, knowing only that a percentage of them. But when she asked about the people that they've lost, they're very sad about it because some of them have gotten trapped in that reincarnation cycle, and they just have not remembered that they came here as part of that program. But the amnesia is so potent here in the programming. And, so now they've had to step in and help assist them in breaking free, which is what we see happening, I think, right now with all these contactees. It's like, okay, well, they've lost so many of their people. They need to come in and get them back. So they nudge them to wake up and remember who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a fascinating detail about this whole onboard program.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's what I see a lot is that it seems like even as advanced as a lot of these beings are, they can't fully comprehend how it actually is incarnated here until you actually incarnate.
Right.
But it seems like Nihar Isley, for example, when she found out, everything she's experiencing is being relayed to her star family up there, so they can kind of through your eyes and your experience, you're like their eyes on the ground.
Yeah.
kind
Right.
of like a
It's
spy
like-
on the ground.
Yeah, it's like the mission reports. You like sit rep.
So that's also
Yeah, you get abducted, and it's like a sit rep. All right,
Sit rep,
go
right.
down there.
right.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And yeah, we just look forward to everything that you have coming in our documentary. Stay tuned for that. And we're going to get out on the water and some paddle boards, and we're going to enjoy the rest of the day. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night. Hey guys, Journey to Truth is going to Hawaii. Join us in 2026 for Journey to Truth's first ever vacation conference on the Big Island at the beautiful Queen Emma Community Center in Kona. Enjoy Hawaii as we travel to sacred sites and connect with our Lemurian past and reactivate the land. It's time to get our bodies moving and take a boots on the ground approach to the awakening. We'll also be making a trip to Volcano National Park to pay our respect to Pele, the goddess of fire. We'll then journey to the water for an ocean adventure with our multi-dimensional aquatic family. We'll gear up and head to the harbor as we set sail under the sun for an activating day on the water while we experience the Hawaiian ocean life like never before. Enjoy Hawaiian sunsets and walks on the beach while connecting with Soul Family and learning a few things from our amazing lineup of speakers. Grab your ticket today at journeytotruth.online and join us for this once-in-a-lifetime activating getaway.